Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here tonight. I was in a classic mood the other day, sitting here trying to figure out what the heck I was going to watch on TV. And I went scrolling through the WWE Network, and the one thing that hit me in the feels was Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event is something that early on in the early days of the WWE Network, I was scrolling down. I was watching a few of these through 1987. All of them, were headlining WrestleMania 3, coming out of WrestleMania 3 into the Survivor Series. And somewhere along the way, we stopped. I don't think I've ever done a review of the Saturday night's main event 3-disc set that came out in the later part of the 2000s. But Saturday night's main event was like watching a pay-per-view as a kid. You had to stay up late on a Saturday. It didn't start until 11:30. It wasn't, every month, but it was a few times a year. NBC let WWF have Saturday Night Live's time slot to run from 11:30 until 1 o'clock. As a kid watching this right here, I would be 6 years old. I don't have the best memories of these ones from 1988. I can honestly tell you, I don't think I ever saw this Hogan match until later in my tape trader days. But there are later Saturday night's main events. I remember the main events with Buster Douglas refereeing the Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan rematch from WrestleMania 5. A lot of like tag team matches to set up SummerSlams. They were like, you had to remember what day it was. You had to remember to stay up, and you had to have the power, to stay up all the way until 1 a.m. in the morning to watch these. As a kid, there was nothing better than this. I honestly picked this one out of the blue. It's the March 12th episode from 1988. I don't really know what number episode that is, but it was the first episode after the first edition of the main event. That one is big rolling into this one because it sort of set up what WrestleMania 4 would come to be. That, of course, is the one with Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant in the rematch from WrestleMania 3. It's when Ted DiBiase paid for the plastic surgeries. We had the twin referees in the ring. The fast count on Hulk Hogan covering Andre the Giant covering Hulk Hogan. We had the title change. We had Andre the Giant announcing Ted DiBiase as the WWF Tag Team Champion of the World. Basically, Ted DiBiase was buying the title. Because of what happened in the ring, Jack Tunney couldn't reverse the decision, but he held the title up in limbo. During this Saturday night's main event, Hulk Hogan is treated as the champion, even though he doesn't have the belt. They don't really know where they're going, but they end up coming up with an idea of having a tournament at WrestleMania 4. It's a really long 2 VHS set. I was always scared to rent it at Blockbuster. I did try and rent it for the first time by only grabbing one of the tapes, the disc 1, thinking that they would just rent me that one, and then the next weekend I would come back and I would get the tape to finish it. I didn't know that there was one price to rent both, but I didn't want to push my luck going up to the register and then bringing me up and it being twice as much as it normally was, and my dad being like, forget it. If you can't pick one, we're not getting any at all. I think many kids can understand that one. But this is a really good one. We don't know where we're going at WrestleMania yet, but if you're watching this and you know what WrestleMania 4 is, all of these matches are set up, just right out of there. We have a straight tournament finale match on here. And I think it's probably stands up as one of the best Saturday night's main events that I've ever seen. This thing is going to open with Brutus and Barber Beefcake going up against Greg the Hammer Valentine. They start having their match. This one's a big one because of the fact They used to be a WWF Tag Team Champion. In the early days of WrestleMania, they wrestled as the Dream Team. I believe they were even managed by Jimmy Hart, who was in the corner of Greg the Hammer Valentine. So a lot of historic wrestling fans, it's probably one of the few times they actually got in the ring and duked it out. They didn't really have a breakup. They just had an idea with Brutus the Barber Beefcake coming out of WrestleMania 3 to have him going in a different direction after he cut the hair in the Roddy Piper retirement match that sort of spun him off in a different direction. During this match, we have Brutus the Barber Beefcake falling to the outside. When he's down on the mat, the Honky Tonk Man walks down. He takes the mic and he basically runs down Brutus the Barber Beefcake, basically saying, "This is all you got. You might as well not show up to WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship match." He doesn't really attack Brutus the Barber Beefcake, just runs him down. They go to a commercial. When they come back, the match is back into the ring, and the Honky Tonk Man has split it out, and he's headed back to the back. So these guys are just basically going at it. They're going back and forth, and during this, Jimmy Hart gets involved. Basically with Brutus the Barber Beefcake chasing him around, which is going to set up the fact that Brutus the Barber Beefcake is going to cut Jimmy Hart's hair come WrestleMania, because we all know no matter what the finale is, nobody's cutting the Honky Tonk's man's hair. That's just not happening there. One of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time. But this one has a really good finish for a television match. Where both guys get tangled up in the ropes. Greg the Hammer Valentine has control as they tumble over, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake gets rolled up for a pin. But at the last second, Brutus the Barber Beefcake picks his shoulders up off the mat, with Greg the Hammer Valentine leaving his down because of the roll up, and Beefcake ends up being the one who sneaks off with the win. During the mass confusion of the match, Brutus the Barber Beefcake cuts Greg the Hammer Valentine's hair, and then starts going after Jimmy Hart. During this, Valentine gets all pumped up. He starts having like a little conniption fit, and it looks like he's really going to put the Beefcake, like the beat down on Beefcake, but Beefcake ends up breaking out the big, huge kitchen shears, which is enough for Greg the Hammer Valentine to be, like, you know what? I'm going to put my hands up and walk away, live to fight another day. From there, we're going to go to a match of Hulk Hogan against King Harley Race. When it comes to Hulk Hogan matches, a lot of people watch matches of the past and say, you know what? Hulk Hogan really wasn't that good of a guy. He took shots at Sensational Sherry, basically punched her with a closed fist. He basically was hugging on his best friend's girl and Miss Elizabeth. He bit guys. He clawed them in the eyes. He rolled guys up with the tights. He did what he had to do to win, but when you really look at it, he wasn't the best babyface in the world. This match right here, Hulk Hogan is not Hulk Hogan. He basically fights this fight as Hollywood Hulk Hogan, as you would see him during the NWO days of the NWO during WCW. We see a different side of Hulk Hogan. He is determined. He's upset. He's feel like his title has been stripped. It's been stolen from him. He was cheated. And he's taken the wrist tape off of his wrists, balling him up on his fist. He's choking Harley Race with him. It's just a different style of Hulk Hogan match that honestly I've ever seen at this time period. Jesse Ventura is trying to get involved with the microphone. He's calling him out for all the ways that he's cheating, and then he actually goes after Joey Marella as being a bad referee for letting as much stuff go. During this match, we have a first in WWF, probably, and in televised wrestling. During the first match, a table is sat out at ringside with, I believe, 2 chairs up underneath it. It caught my eye because of its position in the middle of the ring. And I was like, man, that's kind of weird setup right there. I know that they have the commentating table in the old place that it was basically set up next to the entrance. I know that it's kind of weird they don't have the announcer sitting there. It's kind of weird they don't have the timekeeper sitting there. And then as the match goes on and the fight goes to the outside, I see them all sitting at a different table off to the side in the corner as they do today still. So I'm kind of like trying to put it together. Like, are they having like some sort of guest judges later in the night to see it? But at one point, Hulk Hogan falls down to the table. He's laying on top of it, and he's out of it for a second. And King Harley Race performs a diving headbutt. Not from a turnbuckle. He wasn't, out of the world crazy because they weren't doing stunts like that at the time. But he does kind of like the Ric Flair style, like fall down bump, where he just kind of like walk, and just like throws his body out there. And Hogan gets out of the way. He jumps up off the table. Basically, Race takes the bump right there. On the table. It doesn't crack, it doesn't break. I think he just kind of hits it and he falls off and falls over. But for WWF, we had never seen anything like that. From there, it's basically the normal end of a Hulk Hogan match. Basically with Hogan, getting the leg drop and getting the 1, 2, 3. A really entertaining match. It was very quick pace, a lot of action outside of the ring. Hulk Hogan's rage over losing the championship or not having the title. I don't understand why the King's crown didn't change hands. Little be known that Harley Race had come from the NWA. He had his battles with Ric Flair at Starrcade. He was one of, the biggest stars that the NWA had, and he came to finish his career in WWF, basically kissing the ring and working for Vince. But he wasn't the champion at the time. It wasn't like a Ric Flair bringing the title over during the 1992 run or anything like that. This was weird because of the fact that the crown, the king of wrestling, was normally, if you beat that guy, especially pinned him in the middle of the ring, you became the king. That's how Duggan became the king. That's why at WrestleMania 3, Junkyard Dog gets so mad that he doesn't beat Harley Race. That's how Macho King Randy Savage came to be. That's how King Haku came to be. Who was I guess the last king was the Macho King, for the longest time, but it was like, that was almost like a championship at the time. Why was Hulk Hogan cheated out of being the king of the WWF? Really big match, really good one. From there we go to Macho Man Randy Savage going up against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He is brought down to the ring with Virgil and Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant's contract was purchased, I believe, for $1 million, something substantial to that, from Bobby Heenan. And then immediately after WrestleMania, when Ted DiBiase didn't need Andre anymore, it must have been after SummerSlam, I think. But, and the Mega Bucks are done. He sells them back to Bobby Heenan for $1 because he just doesn't need them anymore, and he's moving on to the next accomplishment for the $1 Million Man. Really big match. I'm not sure I spaced it for a second there. This is the finale to WrestleMania 4 a month later. It's not like this is the warm-up match or anything like that. I don't think they knew what direction they were really going. They probably knew about Hogan going off to make, I was about to call it Beyond the Mat, but it's actually called, Shit. What the fuck is that horrible him and Zeus movie called? No Holds Barred. There we go. I think they know that that's the direction that they're going. But I don't know if they knew DiBiase was going to be the guy that he beat in the finale. In my opinion, a guy that wrestles later in the night for what Vince likes, I think would have been the finale. I thought he would have drawn up, in my opinion. From there we go to them battling around. They're falling to the outside. They're battling around. DiBiase is having Virgil as well as Andre the Giant get involved in the match. Virgil actually ends up getting tossed out as they go to commercial, but he doesn't throw Andre out as well. Hebner is the referee of this match, and he's trying to keep peace and honor. He looks bad because of what happened at the main event, basically a month ago on NBC. So he doesn't want to be sort of looked at as he's a bad guy. But when it comes down to it, there's still too much going on. Savage falls to the floor, gets beat up by Andre the Giant. We have Ted DiBiase encouraging the referee to count him out. It ends up being a count-out victory. While Savage is laid out after getting beat up by Andre the Giant, we had Miss Elizabeth run to the back to go for safe cover, you think, but she ends up bringing out Hulk Hogan, and that's basically almost the birth of the Mega Powers when Hogan comes down to make the save. That way they can, Savage can fight another day. You basically have to fight off Andre and Ted DiBiase from beating them down on them. From there, we go to the Killer Bees against the Islanders. This match, honestly, you have to know inside baseball on. The Islanders come down. Bobby Heenan's wearing a beehive suit to fight off the Killer Bees, but at the same time, they're really hyping up their match against the British Bulldogs at WrestleMania. They already have the dog collar. They haven't stolen Matilda yet, but that is going to be coming. Because of time and they have to cut it down, the show was just taped and it was too long. This was a 2 out of 3 falls match that they basically have to cut down to just being the Islanders beating the Killer Bees 1, 2, 3. They only show one fall, but actually, if you watch it, it's 3 different falls split in to make the best match that they can make. Really good editing, but if you look, you can see it. From there, we're going to go to the finale, which ends up being Ken Patera going up against the one-man gang. This looks at as a big match. Ken Patera was one of, Hulk Hogan's friends, kayfabe-wise, in the WWF. He was a good guy. He was a former United States medalist. He ended up going to prison because he threw the boulder through the Burger King window when he couldn't get food one late night. But the one-man gang is badass. This guy right here, he doesn't do a whole lot except whoo. Is that it? I think he hoots or something like that. Slick does most of the talking for him. Not really a whole bunch in this match. It's just under 3 minutes. He doesn't really do a whole lot. Patera did his best. One Man Gang didn't do a whole bunch. But this match here, honestly, is just to make the One Man Gang look good. I would have thought the One Man Gang was the guy that was going to go to the finale with the Macho Man Randy Savage, in my opinion, of the tournament. But the One Man Gang ends up getting a win in the first round. If my memory is right, I haven't watched WrestleMania 4 in a long time. Mostly, it's a good one. It's got short matches, but a lot of them. I think he beats Bam Bam Bigelow. Then I think he gets a bye because Butch Reed and somebody else doesn't have a decision. I could just be naming names and not getting them right, but I know the One Man Gang gets a bye. And he ends up fighting Savage in a match that there's no way he's gonna win this before he goes to the finale with DiBiase. You would think DiBiase, with his kind of money and power, he would be the one that skates by to the finals with the bye, but they're probably just, because what I was saying about the complaint about WrestleMania 4, it's just so damn long. They probably just had to find a way to cut one match out, and that was just having it wasn't a disqualification. They just don't have a winner in the time limit, and that's what gives One Man Gang the bye. But they do bring him out to the ring just to announce he has a bye, and then have him walk to the back. Really, really good series of matches here. 70 minutes of wrestling. Once they cut the commercials out, I honestly think that if you have an hour, watch this. You're going to enjoy it. Have some fun, man. Saturday night's main event, 1988, setting up WrestleMania 4.